Alright, so we have a Tawny window open here. We're connected to the Raspberry Pi Pico, and I've got these files on the board. And so I'm just going to do a quick overview of Tawny since this is the first time we've really talked about it. This is kind of our editor where we edit files. This is our REPL, and this is our file browser. You can browse files on the computer, or you can browse files on the Raspberry Pi Pico here. And so these are files that are actually saved on the device. So if you were to unplug this device and go plug it back into a different computer, you would see these same files there. And so we named our main file main.py. And main.py is the file that runs when the board powers on. But you can actually call them other files. So like we have this one here that I made called helloworld.py. I can actually run this one as well. And it will run it. If I just press run current script, you can see that it's going to run it instead of running that main.py. But if I do stop restart backend, no, never mind. But if I do control D here, it's going to instead run. Oop, well, let me load it right now. It's going to instead run this main.py. Okay, I'm going to do control C to stop. Okay, and I've got my REPL back. And so the thing that I want to talk about today is really controlling LEDs and a little bit about Micropython. So in our main.py, we have this line here, we import the machine module. Okay, and this is basically a library for handling all the hardware interface where it talks to the pins on the board and stuff like that. So I want to show you here something. This website here is a reference website about everything about Micropython. And there's all kinds of information here specific to how Micropython works and specific examples for different microcontrollers, things like that. And you can also search here for examples of the libraries. So let's click libraries. We're going to go Micropython specific libraries, and we can see here's all the things that we can import. Here's that one, machine, functions related to the hardware. And you can see there's a lot of things here. There's a lot of really kind of high level stuff here. We're not going to dig too far into it. Some of these things we'll look at down the road. But specifically here, there's also a list of classes. And so that pin class is what we're using to control an LED. And so basically what this does is, if we look at the Raspberry Pi Pico, so looking at the board here, we have all these pins with the green that says GP0, GP1, GP2, 3, 4, 5, and all the way down, coming back up the other side, all the way to 28. And GP stands for general purpose. It's actually an abbreviation. The full one is GPIO, general purpose IO, or an IO stands for input and output. So these are general purpose input and outputs. And so what that means is that these pins can be used for a lot of different things. That's what the general purpose means. And they can be used as inputs and outputs. Okay, and so that's what we can do with these. So we can use them to control things, which would be setting them as outputs, or it can use them to get information. So basically we can check to see if they're connected to the high voltage or the low voltage, basically. And that would be using them as an input. If you want to do more reading beyond just whether it's connected to high or low voltage, that's where we can use these analog inputs that we only have 3 of here. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on that we're not going to dig into, but right now the thing that matters is that we can reference these GPIO, that are the ones that are labeled GP here. And so if I reference in Micropython pin 3, that's going to be GP3 right here. Pin 0 is this one, pin 28 is that one, pin 20 is that one, pin 15 is that one. Okay, so you have this paper to use as a reference, so when you're writing the code, when you're editing the code, you can set the appropriate pin for yourself. Okay, and so coming back to come back to our library here. So this pin class is how we actually control those pins. And so you've seen, instead of just importing the machine library, they've actually imported the pin object. And so you can do that. Coming back to here, if we instead do from machine import pin, then we can get rid of this and get rid of this. And so it simplifies things for us a little bit. Okay, and so when we create, so this pin is called a class or an object, and what it does is we tell it what number we want to control, what pin number, and we tell it if we want it to be an input and output. Now we typed in the word LED here because that's a special pin for the built-in LED, but for every other one we're just going to enter it as a number. So for example, we can enter pin 0. Okay, and we'll call this maybe LED 1. Okay, so here we make LED 1 on pin 0, and we turn it on and off. Now, in order for this to work, we're going to have to update our circuit. And so we're going to have to create a circuit that has an LED. And so you see here I have an LED. I've got ground being routed from the Pico. I've got the cathode of the LED connected to the negative terminal here coming from the Pico. And then for the anode of the positive side, we have that connected here on pin 0. Okay, so if we were to run this, what's going to happen is we're going to see now, if we plug that into pin 0, we're going to see that LED blinking on and off. Okay, so take a minute, you can pause this and you can try that out, and you can get an LED blinking on pin 0. Okay, so now if we wanted to add additional LEDs, what we can do is we can copy this line and paste it below, and let's make our second one, we'll call it LED 2, and we'll change this one maybe to pin 1. Okay, and we would have a LED 2 dot on and an LED 2 dot off, and now they're going to turn on and off at the same time. Or if you wanted to alternate them, you could do something like this, right? And now they're going to alternate. Or if you wanted them to kind of take turns blinking, you could add some additional sleeps in here to spread those out some more. And we'll put another one right here, sleep, and now we'll have some delays in them. So you can mess around with this. And we can continue to add more and more and more LEDs as we want to. Now, since we add that second one on pin 1, we should go ahead and add one to our board as well. And so we'll come back over to here. We'll add another LED. Flip it and rotate it. Let's make this one blue. Okay, and then we'll get a resistor. Put it right there. And then we're going to connect this positive leg to pin 1 on the Pi. Right, that's GP1, GP0. Let's change the color of this one to yellow. Okay, something a little more visible. Let's go purple. Or I guess that's a pinkish purple. So now we have two LEDs controlled on pin 0 and 1. If we come back to Tawny, you can see here we got them connected to pin 0 and to pin 1, and here in our while loop we're cycling through, turning them on and off in kind of different sequences. Okay, a couple other key things in our pin class when we initialize it. When we say pin.out, we're telling it that it's going to be an output. Later, when we want to do an input, we use pin.in. Not for right now, but later. Okay. Also, if instead we want to use import machine instead of from machine import pin, we can do the same thing, but instead, also if you want to comment a bunch of things, you just say control. Oops, nope, not going to do that. I have to comment them one at a time. What we're going to have to do here is machine.pin and machine.pin.out. And so this method is what I do if I just import the machine package like that. I have to reference the class as coming from that package. And so just like with the machine.pin, I have the .out. I could also, like, if you wanted to, you could maybe get away with doing something like this, where, I don't know if this would work or not, but you could say from pin import out, and then you could probably go like this and not put the pin dot out in front. Now, I'm not recommending that, and let me actually see if it works. Let me try running this. Nope, doesn't like that. So I do need to put pin dot out. Actually, I might be able to do this. From machine dot pin import out. Let's see if I can do that. Nope, doesn't like that either. So maybe there's a way to do that. I'm not sure what it is. We still have to do pin dot out there. Okay. The other thing you could do is you could say out equals pin dot out, and then you could put out right there. Okay, let's see if I made any other mistakes here. Yep, we're looking good otherwise. Okay, so you can mess around with this, have some fun controlling some LEDs, see if you can get 5 or 6 LEDs on there, and I'll blink them together or differently, and just have some fun with it.